Namaste and hello everyone. Welcome back to another video on Melody with the Mid Soul. And in today's video, I will be sharing the books that I plan to read and some movie adaptations which I plan to watch this August. My name is Awhona and do please join me further in this video. So this month I do have a few books which includes a biography of a famous artist. I also have some Jane Austen books. I also have a music book which I did share earlier in the month of June, in the month of June, but I am still halfway, in fact I'm not even halfway through it, so I will be including that in my TBR so that I can finish that book. It's actually very interesting. And I also have I wouldn't say it's a gothic book, but it's a book which does deal with a lot of death, and it has gruesome language in it, and it's quite raw. So I will share these books with you. That's what my book stack looks like for this particular month. So first let me get down to the most interesting book for this particular month, which is Leonardo-Da-Vinci's biography written by Walter Isaacson. And it's a very authentic biography, and I have been trying to get my hands on Walter Isaacson's biography of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci is one of the most enigmatic figures in the history of Italian Renaissance, as we all know, and he's one of my favorite artists in the entire history of let's say art academia. So from the back of the book it reads as, Walter Isaacson is not an art historian, he's simply a lover of Leonardo, who manages to communicate the sheer joy of this remarkable man. Walter Isaacson keeps the mortal man to the fore. For all his supernatural gifts, let me just read that out again. For all his supernatural gifts as an artist and natural scientist, Leonardo was resolutely human, illegitimate vegan in need of patrons, rather than the near deity of legend. Isaacson is an assured guide to Leonardo's fallibility. So many projects started, so few completed, as well as his extraordinary curiosity and his even more remarkable painterly skills that were sharpened by intense observation. So that's what's written at the back of the book. Now, from the jacket of the book, it reads as, Leonardo da Vinci created the two most famous paintings in history, The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. But in his own mind, he was much of a man of science and engineering. With a passion that sometimes became obsessive, he pursued innovative studies of anatomy, fossils, birds, and the heart, flying machines, botany, geology, and weaponry. His ability to stand at the crossroads of humanities and the sciences, made iconic by his drawing of Vitruvian Man, established him as history's most creative genius. Now, Walter Isaacson brings Leonardo da Vinci to life, showing why we have much to learn from him. His combination of science, art, technology, and imagination remains an enduring recipe for creativity. So too was his ease at being a bit of a misfit, illegitimate, gay, vegetarian, left-handed, easily distracted, and at times heretical. His relentless curiosity should remind us of the importance of instilling both in ourselves and in our children not just received knowledge, but also a willingness to question it, to be imaginative, and like talented misfits and rebels in any era, to think differently. So this is one of the books that I'm looking forward to read. and I'm quite proud to have a copy of this book in my house. So that's the first book that I'll be reading for this particular month. Now, the second book that I will be reading is one of the books which I had shared previously, but of course I could not complete this book, so I'm planning to complete it this August. It's Musicophilia by Oliver Sacks, and I have shared about this particular book in another video which I will post a link to in the description box below. So if you would really like to know more about it, so do please check that particular video. I will try to include the timestamp which you would need to click on for more information on this book in that video. So that will be the second book that I have chosen to read for this month. The third book which I have chosen to read this month is by Kashif Mashaikh, and it's called Mortuary Tales. And I would say it's not a very let's say comfortable read for me. It's quite direct, it's blunt, it's got a lot of colloquial language in it as well, and colloquial terms, and it's quite raw. So there are lots of abuses in it as well. So in case if you are a lot into English literature and language, I would not suggest you read this book. But in case if you want to know about a reality of things that happen in a mortuary, and how the life of the deceased can be deciphered by just a caretaker who was tending the bodies he was receiving in the mortuary for further investigation later on, you can definitely pick up this book. Now, from the back of this book, it reads as: for the past 3 decades, Jeevan Ram has worked the night shift at the mortuary of the Grand Trunk Hospital in Mumbai. At the sunset of his career, he is joined by a young apprentice who is uncomfortable when confronted by death and disease, the social apathy that has crept into the system. The apprentice is afraid to face his fears, but through the 9 dark tales Jeevan Ram tells him, the young man begins to understand the purpose of life and death, of love and loss, of loneliness, guilt, and everything in between. Drawing from the narrative patterns of Vikram Betal and the Arabian Nights, Mortuary Tales is filled with the stories of real fear and the many ghosts that come in the mind, which the mind can conjure. An exceptionally compelling debut. It is a compelling debut, but the language is quite raw, and if you love English literature, I wouldn't suggest this particular book. But if you love reading about different cultures, and if you are into reading about raw language as an abusive language, you definitely can try this book. Okay, so that is the third book which I've chosen to read. The fourth book which I have chosen is a classic, which is Emma by Jane Austen. And Emma is all about a rich heiress who is young, and just because she has had a success of getting her governess married, she thinks that she is a matchmaker, and she goes out of her way to try and do match fixing in the societies, and tries to uplift women, but she finally ends up getting married. So this is the story in brief, but I will be reading this book once again because I did read this, I believe, a few years ago. So I'm quite interested in getting back to this book, and I'll get back to you with a more structured review for this particular book. So that will be the fourth book. Now, there is a retelling of this very story, which is called I Could Write a Book by Karen M. Cox, a modern variation of Jane Austen's Emma. So I hope you can see it. I have to hold it this way so that the light does not shine on it. And this is it's a retelling, and it is also a variation in some parts. So I'll just read out from the back of the book, which reads as: Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich. Thus began Jane Austen's classic, a light and lively tale set in an English village 200 years ago. Yet every era has its share of Emmas, young women trying to find themselves in their own corners of the world. I Could Write a Book is the story of a self-proclaimed modern woman, Emma Catherine Woodhouse, a 1970s co-ed whose life is pleasant, ordered, and predictable, if a bit confining. Her friend George Knightley is a man of the world who has come home to fulfill his destiny, run his father's thriving law practice, and oversee the sprawling Donwell Farms, his family legacy in central Kentucky horse country. Since childhood, George's and Emma's lives, I'm sorry, okay, let me rephrase that again. Since childhood, George and Emma's lives have meshed and separated time and again, but now they are adults with grown-up challenges and obligations. As Emma orchestrates life in quaint Highbury, George becomes less amused with her antics and struggles with a growing attraction to the young women she has become. Rich with humor, poignancy, and camaraderie of life in small southern town, I Could Write a Book is a coming-of-age romance with side helpings of self-discovery, friendship, and finding true love in the most unlikely places. So that will be the retelling which I'm reading for Emma. And the last collection which I have is again a Jane Austen collection, and I will be watching Emma from this particular series. Now I'm not going to be watching all of them, but just Emma. And I also have another BBC version of Emma, which was released somewhere in the 1990s, so I will be watching that as well. So I don't have a copy of that at the moment, but yes, I will watch both of them. So those are the books that I'm planning to read and the movies that I'm planning to watch for this particular month. And do let me know what you think of them and how you like the video, and do leave a comment if you appreciate this video, or also share your thoughts. And with that, I will be wrapping up this video. I will see you soon again in the next week of the forthcoming week, which is the Saturday, I believe, the next to next Saturday. And till then, take care, have a good reading week ahead, and namaste.